Well, here's the question we've been asking today. Are you married to the right person? If you haven't asked that question at some point already, chances are you will. At least that's the take on the cover article of Psychology Today, where they ask that same question. Are you with the right mate? It's got a lot of people buzzing.
The article says there's this open secret in American culture that everyone is disillusioned with their spouse, and it's normal to experience feelings of hate in your marriage. It's a little startling, a little abrupt. The thoughts there caught us off guard, so we had to get Studio 5 relationship coach Matt Townsend in here to share his take on this article. What did you take away from it?
Totally agree.
You agree?
Well, this morning, I was asking the question myself about my wife, because I put on my makeup for my show today, and she says, "You look like you're dead in a casket." And I said, wow, watch the show today, because I'm talking about us. Is that rude? So I think it is this illusion that we should be, we found our prince. Okay, we both get on a beautiful steed and we ride into the sunset. It's more like a mule with asthma, and it's hacking your entire ride.
And you've talked several times about sort of the yearning stage, and it's probably as that yearning stage, as that dies down, that's when you look over the table one night and you think, did I marry the right person?
What the heck? And then all of a sudden, we're literally, we start questioning, and which is why I think Facebook is interesting, because then all the women go on Facebook and they see what their exes were doing. Oh, look, he's making a lot of money. They travel. So they start comparing and contrasting, and so I think it's a very common thing, and it just shouldn't, you just don't feed it. So what we have to do is show you what else to do and kind of blow through some of the paradigms.
So when that thought enters your mind, again, you say it's a normal thought to have.
Yes, very normal.
Most couples will have that thought at one point or the other?
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially if you notice it's usually in the low moments.
Sure.
We don't usually have it in the high moments where everything's great.
Right. You have that thought, then what do you do?
Then there's a few, you can go get inebriated. Or I wouldn't do that personally. I would just recommend a few things, okay? This is a thinking problem. So if we want to fix the thinking problem, we have to fix our thinking. So I'm going to just give you a few suggestions of things to go think on and talk about. I mean, get in your head, kind of work through your head. Because if you can change how you think it and reframe this, you'll feel better about your situation and your partner. And then if you go online to your website, studio5blankety-blank / you can get 10 of them. There's 10 thinking thoughts or thinking errors you can work through, okay? So here's a few of them. First one, okay? You ready for this? Soulmates are created, not found. You have to blow up the idea that you just picked the wrong guy. And if you're not careful with that, if you honestly believe that you find your soulmate instead of create your soulmate, then you're going to quit creating. If you want a better soulmate, then start being a better soulmate. So start taking the thought that I'm not somebody, it's not about finding them, it's about being the right person. Start trying to be a better soulmate for your person. Learn to communicate, learn to influence them so they'll listen to you, so they'll take your advice, so they'll change.
So majority of the time, if I say, I wonder if this is the right person, you're honestly saying that I'm the one that needs to change rather than worrying about them, right?
Well, you're the one thinking the thought. And you're the one that married the Yahoo, right? So this is pretty much your problem. And so if we keep thinking it's them, which by the way is what we do, then we never have to work on us. That's one of the neat tricks of being human, is we tend to push our issues outside of us. And when they're outside of us, we actually have no control over them. And the minute you make this about your marriage or being the wrong choice, now I'm not saying you didn't make a wrong choice, because sometimes we did, and now you're there. So there are some things you can still do before you just throw out the baby.
Well, and if we were to categorize that as a negative thought, don't you find in any situation those negative thoughts, once they're there, once you plant that seed, it's so easy to fixate on them and the seed starts to grow.
That's exactly right, which gets us to the next point. You couldn't have segued it better.
Well,
they must have said something in your ear. You don't fixate on the fantasy, okay? You don't keep fixating on that fantasy. Now, this is a problem, honestly, especially for the ladies. Men have a fantasy until it's met. Then we don't think about that again, except for every couple hours. But women have this fantasy about what this life's going to be like with their partner. And it's romanticized. There's a reason why women file, about 2/3 of the divorces are filed by women. A little more than that. 70% of divorces are filed by women. And I've actually found women tend to be about 2 years ahead in the marriage because the fantasy's there. And the fantasy is not as much of a big of a fantasy for a man.
What do you mean women are 2 years ahead in the marriage?
Women just are, when women know the marriage is bad, they've been talking about it being bad for 2 years before the man's like, oh, okay. Now I get it. Thank you. She's known that for years because you have expectations that men don't have. And a lot of them are harder to get to, and they're kind of fantasy oriented. It's romance, it's connection.
It's what we read about in books, it's what we see on movies.
It's Oprah. It's all that stuff.
Oprah.
Okay? So as long as you keep fostering the fantasy instead of living some reality, your marriage is not supposed to be a fantasy life with a bare-chested guy with his hair flowing like Darren's on a steed. It's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be you and your partner raising a family, knee to knee, playing with your kids on the carpet, working through issues. There's a real side of all of this. And so don't keep blowing up the fantasy of it. Be very real about what's real and what's expected.
Can I ask, you mentioned about the difference in men and women. Do men or women, or have you found, ask this question more often than the other? Am I married? Women will be, you'll find more likely to ask the question, am I married to the right spouse?
No, actually I think everyone asks that, but I think women are much more likely to fantasize about what the relationship should be, and they're probably more likely to have a fantasy that's less based in reality. Men's fantasies are pretty much based in a few things. They're freaks. Okay? The next one is no one person can meet all of your needs. Another myth you've got to blow up is that your partner can actually meet all of your needs. That's an illusion. I can't be everything to my partner. She can't be everything to me, but she can go get friends that can create the communication, some of the needs that they have. She can go maybe work out with people in a way that I wouldn't go work out. She can do stuff with her friends and with other people that might help support some of her needs. Don't rely on one person to make all your needs.
So it's healthy to turn outside the marriage and find other people to support.
To a degree, yeah. Yeah, in fact, it's actually realistic. See, again, it goes back to the fantasy. If you think one man's going to do it all, he's not only going to take care of the kids, love you, talk to you 14 times a day, and do everything else, then you're going to set yourself up for an illusion that's eventually you're going to fall from, and then you're going to start questioning. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Okay? Last one, numero 4. Remember that the things that bother you most are usually where you're most vulnerable. So whatever it is you're so frustrated about with your spouse is usually much, much more about you. For example, if you're sick and tired that they don't provide, that is an issue, safety, financial security, that seriously is at your core. So one of the keys to this is if I'm not depending on my partner to do everything for me, then maybe what I should do is go get more secure financially myself. The irony, if she started taking care of some of her own concerns and fears, she would probably motivate him to get his game on, if that makes sense.
So not saying necessarily their problem is my problem, but there's a root of that problem that affects you to your
Which
core.
is why it resonates with you so violently or so aggressively. The reason you frustrate me so much is more about me than it is about you. And so if you're trying to deal with these things in your marriage, instead of just, you know, bemoaning the fact that you married maybe the wrong person, start looking at yourself and say, what is it about them that is frustrating with me? And then what is it about me that makes that so real? And you'll usually see your insecurities. You'll see what's weak about you. Work on that. Because once you're confident there, you may not need to throw them out for that reason. You might throw them out for another reason, but it won't be that reason.
Revealing thing, if you ask the question, chances are you're the one who needs to be doing something and not your spouse.
Interesting stuff.
It's hard. It's easier to blame everyone else, though.
Good stuff, Matt.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. We want to talk about the special offer you have going on. So many of my friends and family members have gone on and taken advantage of this.
I'd keep doing it, and this isn't going to end. This goes on forever and ever and ever. But we've been having date nights for years now. Women's classes, singles classes, all of these things. Now they're all online. Okay, so if you go online, today you can go online to datenightswithmatt.com, and if you enter in a password code, which is Studio 5, you can get my monthly subscription to my website that hosts all of the classes I'm doing. Everything I've done in the last 3 months is now on there. 5 or so date nights, 7 or 8 women's classes, it's all on there. You can go on. It's normally $27 a month, but if you put in Studio 5 as a coupon code, for $1 you can try the whole site. And every week, brand new content. Hour-and-a-half classes every week.
Love it.
Thanks, kids.
Matt. All right.